Okay, this is a video just showing you how I paint my tea bags. And what I did first is I went ahead and I put one coat of gesso on it. And what I usually do is I draw out my picture first on a piece of paper, and then using a transfer carbon, I just transfer the image onto the tea bags. That way, if I have to do any erasing, I'm not doing it actually on the tea bag. Then you can use acrylic paints. I'm using watercolors today because I have a set of watercolors that I got off of eBay that are Korean. And don't mind my hands, I had acrylic nails on and tore my nails off trying to get them off. So I'm going to use these today because I want to be able to use this fluorescent sort of pink color. And so this is my Korean. They're called Shinhan, and I'll put it in the links below what I got. Then I also have a set of Reeves Gouache. I also use gouache. Now I squirt my gouache out onto this palette is exclusively for my gouache, and when they dry out, I just spray them with some water before I get ready to go, and they'll come out really transparent. So if you want something, you know, a little bit darker, you either put several coats on, or you can take the gouache right out of the tubes. So for a tea bag like this, if you want to keep it like this, I cut a hole in the back. If you can see it, I've cut a hole here, and I just empty the tea out. It takes a while to get it out, but I empty it out and leave the bag like this. And then if I want to do it on the full length of it, then I just cut it across here, and I usually tear a jagged edge on the bottom. And then for the full tea bag, I just take the staple out of it and I open it all the way up, and then you get this. And when you're applying the gesso, just make sure that with your brush, you know, be gentle with the brush, but make sure you don't have any wrinkles in it, because when it dries it gets hard and it's hard to draw on it. And these, because they have a seam in it, they're hard to draw on anyway, because you've got a seam. No matter how smooth you keep the rest of it, you still have a seam to work with. Same with this one. But I've already transferred my drawings onto here, so we're going to work on this one. And I have tea everywhere. So I'm gonna add some color to it. I'm using the lavender and the fluorescent pink on this, and I just wet the area that I'm gonna apply the watercolor to, or the gouache. And you might have some bleeding out of it, which, I mean, can be a happy accident or not, because if you don't have a lot of, I wanted some of the tea stain to show through, so I only put one coat of gesso on. So if you don't have more than one on there, then you might get some bleeding through the edge. But it lightens up enough that I don't usually worry about that. But I do I try to stay within the lines, because I go back in with a permanent marker, or permanent ink pen, and outline it. So, and each, I stay away from, let them dry in between these different sections so that they don't bleed into each other. And this is actually gouache that I'm putting on here now. Don't mind my desk either. Mine's never really organized. I always have stuff everywhere. And while it's still wet, I usually will go back in and drop more color, just so that I get a sort of fading effect. Parts of it be dark, and then have it fade out. Some of these I might have to switch to a smaller brush. And these will dry a lot lighter than they look, because when it's laying on the mat, you can see it still bleeds through. And if you move your tea bag around, you'll end up getting that paint and coming up through in areas that you don't want it to. So that's one thing you need to watch out for, is don't move it around too much. Now on these, I'm actually adding the gouache without adding water first, and then I'm gonna add water and bleed it out. Too much water. You don't have that issue with the water, with it bleeding if you're using acrylic paints. But I like the washed out look I get with the gouache and the watercolors, so it just depends on what kind of a look. If you want more solid, you can use straight gouache, or you can use the acrylics. I haven't used my recorder for a long time, and I had to set it up so that it was to my left, hoping that I'm in the frame of the picture so you can see it, and it's actually in my way, but I can't remember how I used to set it up, so I haven't done a video in a long time. Sorry, as I said, everything's in my way, so my arm keeps hitting my paint tray. Okay, now I want to dry this, so hopefully I don't hit my tripod. And I'm sorry for the noise, but I haven't been able to figure out how to pause this, if you can even pause it. Okay, that as I said before, that was my gouache. Now I'm going to go to this fluorescent pink that I have in my watercolor palette. One thing, if you do this and you didn't want to outline it, I have trouble with, because you're using carbon paper, it this line, it won't go away completely. Even if you manage to erase some of it, it doesn't go away completely. And I don't mind on the ones that I want to ink, but if you're trying to do it and you don't want to outline it, you just want the washed out painting, it's better if you just scribble some graphite on the back of your drawing and transfer it that way, because then you can erase those lines. But this carbon paper doesn't erase. The marks don't erase well. But I always transfer my stuff and draw. I don't draw that well, so it takes me a while to draw out something that I'm actually going to use. And what I usually do, if I can find the sample of it that I was using, that's not on that one. Not sure what I did with it, but what I usually do is that it? Yeah, that's it. I draw out the shape of the tea bag, and then I start my drawing, and that way I know that it's actually going to fit on the tea bag, and then I put the carbon paper behind it using a light source. I have a light box, but you can use a window or whatever, and line the tea bag up with the back and put a little piece of tape there, and then put your carbon paper underneath it, or scribble on the back and use graphite. But that's how I make sure that I don't draw it too big for my tea bag. And if you don't draw well, like me, you can also find, like, depending on what it is, if it's a seahorse or a, something that you'd have quite a few things come up in a Google search, you can use royalty-free clip art, and you can just trace it. But something like this from Alice in Wonderland, or like the Star Wars character, those are copyrighted, I'm sure. So I draw my own. I don't try to copy anyone. And I don't draw well, so. The other issue I've found, when I get to the point where I'm going to add black and white highlights, boy, I tell you, I struggle trying to get a very fine tip black or white pen that works. Now my black pens, I use the Microns, and I have a Staedtler somewhere, and these work on watercolors, but for some reason, I don't know if it's because of the gesso or what, excuse me, I struggle with these. I have a hard time. Then I have a Sharpie, and it says ultra fine point. Well, it's to me not an ultra fine point. So you get a thicker line with this than I like, but this works better. And for my white, I use the Posca Pen, but same issue there. I could get a black one of these, but even though it's fine, that's not fine. So I really struggle. I have a Uniball gel pen, the Signo gel pen, that works sporadically. So it's really a struggle getting things that work on this. And I'm actually not, I don't do that well with a paintbrush and black paint, so to get a fine line as well. So, you know, that would be the other option, but I don't know. I don't hold the brush right or something. I can't seem to get a really fine line, and it may also be that my hand maybe isn't that steady when I'm trying to do a straight fine line. I'm just removing some of that to make the color fade a bit. Taking some of that water off. I missed a little bit here. Okay, sorry, here comes the heat gun again. Okay, I think I'll make his eyes really bright yellow. I'll probably see, I think I'll use the gouache. Then I'm going to, I think I'm going to go ahead and give him a black nose. Although, as I recall, I think most of the photos I've seen, I think his nose was pink, but I'm giving him a black nose. Maybe some black eyebrows. I would like to have his teeth really white with a shadow on it. I'm going to try to put white gouache on it. You could put a couple more coats of gesso on the teeth, I suppose. But I can also go back in with a Posca pen after I finish and give it some more white highlights. One more time with the heat gun. And then the other thing I do, I have a set of Prisma watercolor pencils. I have this one, 36. I also will go in with these. Let me get these paints out of the way. I go in with these and I do some shadows and some highlights too. So I'm just going to take these out and do a little bit of shading. This. And sometimes I'll add water to it and sometimes I just leave it with the pencil. That's my light pink. Light in there. This one is pink. And the one for the dark I'm using is carmine red. That's the bad thing about using a set of these. You don't always have exactly the color that you want. Because I don't have all of them. And this isn't really the right color, but... And I don't think... Well, maybe this one's better. This one's poppy red. No, not really. Not really better. I could go back in with the pink and use that for my watercolors, and I might. It just depends on how it looks. I'm done. And this is the light pink again. Sorry, put my hand in the way. Hopefully I'm still in the camera. I can't see my screen from this side, so I'm hoping I'm still in the frame. Okay, now we will do, let's see what I have in the purples. Okay. This one. Okay, so for the dark, I'm using the violet. And the light is called Lilac. Blend it a little bit better. Sorry, I'm sure my hand's in the way. I'm just putting in all the dark right now. And I'll come back in with the lilac. Okay, then I might use, don't know if I have, I'll use a sort of a dark gold color. This is called Goldenrod. See if I can get some shadowing on his eyes. Yeah, that's not working great. Try this one. Sienna Brown. Yeah, that's a little better. So. And on the teeth, I think I want to use it's called Non-Photo Blue. I just want a little bit of shadowing across the teeth. And that one I think I will wet with water just to tone it down some. Okay, then this is the point where I come in with my my ink pens and my Posca pens to try to do the outlining. But like I said, bear with me because I have a terrible time getting these things to write on here. And I actually prefer the microns, but They really don't like it. I hate to use the Sharpie because it's a thicker line than I want. So if anybody can tell me what in the world I can use that has a really fine point that'll write on anything, oh, that would be so helpful. Because I think I've tried every black pen that I've been able to buy here. You have a lot more variety in the US than we have here in Australia. And yes, I'm American, but my husband's an Aussie, and we live here now. Been here since 2005. And that's, well, I love the US, and I miss Virginia. I was born in Texas, but we spent most of my life in Virginia, and I love it. I miss it. But I really do, I love we're in Queensland, and I love the weather because I hate cold weather. And so I'm happy here. I just miss my family, and I miss, just Virginia is beautiful. I miss Virginia. And I miss being able to get anything I want when I want it, which you can't do here. So often I have to order it online because I can't find it. We need a Michaels here. I have a Spotlight, which is, I suppose, something you could say was similar to a Michaels, but it's definitely not even close to being a Michaels. Where Michaels carries all brands, the Spotlight stores here don't carry all the name brands. Now, I don't even know how long this video is. I may have trouble getting it to upload. You probably can't even see what I'm doing. It's really hard. I need to figure out a way to get it so that it's behind me, but I thought if I tried to put it behind me, you'd have my head in the way. I'm going to try, I think, get a few more of these lines in, and then I might try to go back to the Micron pen and see if I can do some of these tiny details with the Micron. Back to this and see See how we do. Yeah, I'm having trouble with it. And then I might just add a bit of my watercolor again. Actually, I might go in with a stencil and just put some stenciling in the background, and I will post the finished photo of it when it's done, because I don't want this video to go too long. So I'm gonna add some white. And my Posca pen is gonna act up. Right there. You see, I have trouble with the Posca pen sometimes too. And then I'll just add that background, and I'll post a photo of the finished one. And then I just sign it. Well, I'll put a background on first, then I'll sign it. And that's pretty much what we get. Thank you for watching. Bye.